Sam, can you see and hear me? We'll start right at 7, just kind of testing the sound and picture right now. And enjoying a beer, which is on my nightstand. Cheers. Here's an image until we're ready. I think it's 7. It's Poets in Pajamas time. I hope y'all can hear me. Sam, is the sound okay? Hoping you all can hear me. I'm sitting in my bed wearing llama print pajama pants. Wait, hang on. Did you see them? And drinking a beer despite the fact that I'm on cold medication. And you can hear me. Oh, good. Okay, Sam, I saw your comment. Okay, so welcome. I'm here. I'm in my pajamas, which today is a PBS t-shirt, go PBS, and a pair of llama print pajama pants that I got on clearance from Old Navy, if you must know. They're super comfy and slightly ridiculous, which is how I roll. So I put on a movie for my kids downstairs and told them not to bother me for the next 30 minutes. So it's poetry time. I'm going to read. I'm talking on my phone, obviously. I'm going to read from my laptop. So I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to do our best. I'm going to read a few poems from The Well Speaks of Its Own Poison. And then I will read a few poems from Weep Up, which will be out in September. And then we'll take a break. And if you guys have questions, I think there's a little bit of a delay. So just type in a question, and in a few seconds it'll pop up on my phone, and then I can do my best to answer it. And I'm sorry I sound froggy. I'm getting over a chest cold that I caught from my two sweet petri dishes named Violet and Rhett. So this is the last poem in The Well Speaks of Its Own Poison, and it's called I Think of You, Arendara, and it's based on a short story by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I was in love. Everything glass I touched turned blue. Everything orange I opened to reveal a diamond. Somewhere a cricket played and played. The trees dimmed their lights so gradually I hardly noticed. What I mean is that I loved everything. Everyone knew, from the blue vases, the blue figurines, from the oranges hiding jewels you could crack a tooth on, from the cricket's music chipping away the air between us, from darkness verging slowly as the trees lowered their lights. I was in love with everything then. Even my windows went blue as sea glass, and through them so did the streets, the bicycles, the birds. The view startled like a diamond inside an orange. One night the cricket finished boring through the air to me. But before I could see him, the trees went dark, and took me with them. I hope you can all hear me. Okay, so one more from The Well Speaks of Its Own Poison. Because it's spring, I'm going to read a tornado poem. This is Xenia, 1974. Through the power lines, the sky looks like ruled paper. In this notebook, the pages are filled with birds someone drew. I can't say it was me. Then suddenly a white sleeve of wind, a cigarette, a pen on the horizon. From the road we must look like paper dolls, crisp, dark silhouettes floating through the rooms, rushing to the cellar. In this strange light, the red barn goes violet. The trees wear their shadows too close to their skin. A pen hovers above the horizon, then dips down, as if plowing our names and the names of this town in deep furrows until the ink is pressed clean through the paper. Afterwards, everything is rearranged. The ruled page of the rabbit pen has rabbits drawn in the margins, fence posts nailed into trees, blonde strands of scattered hay gleaming like a girl's hair. In the violet husk of our barn, in the remains, what voice calls? I can't say it is mine. I went online when I was writing that poem and found you can listen to actual recordings of that F5 tornado that happened in Xenia, Ohio in 1974. It's terrifying. Not as peaceful as the poem. And this poem is Game, also from The Well Speaks of Its Own Poison, and it's the backstory is that I came home once in high school, and there was a dead deer hanging in my backyard at my mom and dad's house. And what happens next is in the poem. This one's called Game. Before I saw camouflage painted with blood, I saw the gutted deer hanging from a tree in the yard, his tongue lolling to one side, back hooves barely grazing the grass. I had to pose with him in a photograph, sort of smiling beside the gaping seam running the length of his belly. He was not a doll lost its stuffing, not a hollowed canoe for sailing down the creek to wherever it led, not a new room, not a body I could wear like a puppet. What little I could see inside was dark, sticky, smelling of rust. Where did all the slick pink organs go? I never asked, but like the cut branches and raked leaves, they were likely tossed into the creek and cleansed in the water downstream, wherever it led. My father left the eyes for photographs. They were already going stale. Before long, they were replaced with shinier ones, doll's eyes that never turn to X's, never shrivel, never see. It hurts me to think I imagined his body as a place to hide from the sight of him. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch to paper now. This is funny. Trying to hold a phone, record myself, and read at the same time. I could really use a personal assistant, but they're all downstairs watching Ratatouille. And also, they'd probably do a crap job, let's be honest. This poem is from the new book, and it was published first in Nashville Review, which I'm very grateful to Tiana Clark and everyone there for. It's called At Your Age, I Wore a Darkness. At your age, I wore a darkness several sizes too big. It hung on me like a mother's dress. Even now, as we speak, I am stitching a darkness you'll need to unravel, unraveling another you'll need to restitch. What can I give you that you can keep. Once you asked, does the sky stop? It doesn't stop. It just stops being one thing and starts being another. Sometimes we hold hands and tip our heads way back so the blue fills our whole field of vision, so we feel like we're in it. We don't stop. We just stop being what we are and start being what? Where? What can I give you to carry there? These shadows of leaves, the lace and solace, this soft hand-me-down darkness? What can I give you that will be of use in your next life, the one you will live without me? And this is Good Bones. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible, and for every kind stranger there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor, walking you through a real shithole, chirps on about Good Bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. This is a new poem that just came out in an Irish journal called The Well Review, which it's its first issue, and I'm really pleased. I'll be going to Ireland this summer thanks to the folks at the Well Review and the West Cork Literary Festival. So I'll be in Cork. I'll be in Cork this summer with my very pale people. So this poem is called If Anyone Can Survive, and for those of you who have in your lifetime read the book The Boxcar Children, some of this may feel familiar. I read that recently with my 8-year-old. If anyone can survive, it's the motherless children in my daughter's books, orphaned or abandoned or garden variety alone, with their chipped cups mined from the dump, their day-old bread squirreled from the bakery, their milk chilling in glass bottles behind the waterfall so it doesn't sour. They've learned to sew their own clothes from rags. They can tie their own shoes, a sailor's knot, a tourniquet. They can snare and skin a rabbit, strike rocks into fire. Speaking of fire, where are their fathers? At war, in jail, or fly-by-night, what matters is the mothers, who must be dead for any rising action to happen. Nothing is as freeing as grief. Motherless children, what do they have to lose? They're camped in the glacier-hollowed canyon, whose ice melted millions of years ago. Even the canyon where the motherless sleep is motherless. An orphan is anything that outlives what made it. So I think if I've got time, maybe for one more poem, I think I do, I'll read one from the new Pleiades. If I can find the page. Here it is. The cool thing about this issue is that I get to be right next door to the poet Miko Harvey, whose thesis I directed at Ohio State last year when I was teaching there, and his poems just blew me away. And so we're on facing pages. We get to share a spread in the new Pleiades. So this poem, this will be my last one, and then if you have questions, I'm here. This poem is called Parachute. Because a lie is not a lie if the teller believes it. The way beautiful things reassure us of the world's wholeness, of our wholeness, is not quite a lie. Beautiful things believe their own narrative, the narrative that makes them beautiful. I almost believed it until the new mother strapped her infant to her chest, opened the 8th floor window, and jumped. My daughter tells me, after her preschool field trip to the firefighter museum, about the elephant mask, its hose like a trunk, and the video of a man on fire being smothered in blankets. She asks me if she knows anyone who got dead in a fire, anyone who got fired. When will I die? She asks. When I was a child, I churched my hands, I steepled my hands, and all the people were inside, each finger a man, a woman, a child. When I die, will you still love me? She asks. The mother cracked on the pavement. How did the baby live? Look, he smiles and totters around the apartment 8 stories up. Beautiful things reassure us of the world's wholeness, each child sliding down the pole into the fire captain's arms. But what's whole doesn't sell itself as such. Buy this whole apple, this whole car, live this whole life. A lie is not a lie if the teller believes it. Next time the man in the video will not ignite. The baby will open like a parachute. Okay, I think that's all for poems. I hope you could hear me okay. If you have questions, I think there's a little bit of a delay, but they should pop up on my phone and then I can answer them, so don't be shy. Thank you guys for listening. In the meantime, I will reach over to my nightstand and have a drink of my beer. And if you have questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit in bed. Oh, your comments are so kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. If I could give every reading in bed, I would do so many more readings. And I could just put on the TV for my children and then lie to the pediatrician at their checkups about how much screen time they get. Okay, question. Words of advice at balancing writing motherhood. Okay, that's funny since I just said that I was letting my children watch a lot of television. Words of advice about balancing writing and motherhood, or frankly, balancing writing and anything. That's tricky. I mean, I do part-time daycare for my son, and so there are a couple days a week where it's just us and we're Legoing and riding bikes and playing pretend and going to the park, etc., etc. But there are other days that are writing days for me, and now that they're getting to an age where they get that I have something else to do, they're pretty cool about watching a movie or going outside in the backyard with a dog or whatever. And regarding work and writing, I try to split my days up because I work as a freelancer. So really, I'm writing all the time. Only part of the time I'm writing poems, and part of the time I'm doing other kind of writing for clients. And it can get kind of muddied. And so what I try to do is write in the morning, poetry, when my brain is really fresh. And then I'll take a lunch break and then I'll do client work in the afternoons or vice versa, depending on deadlines. So that I have time devoted to both. And I try to not be working during homework time for the kids and be there for bedtimes and stuff. And then I stay up really late, like I'm up until almost 1 every night, working on poems or working on client stuff because it's free time. So Another question, talk about the relationship between the sentence and the line. That's a really good one. I mean, I think the quickest way to sort of go into a poem and find out why it's sort of being or falling flat is to look at the sentence variety that you have in the poem, first of all. Like retype out the poem as sentences, and put some spaces between just to see if maybe you have really what your poem is 15 declarative sentences between 7 and 10 words long each. I mean, no wonder it sounds flat. And so I look really closely at that. Like, am I varying fragments and longer sentences? Am I sort of a one-trick pony in a poem doing the same thing over and over? Repetition is good if you're doing it to sort of highlight something in a poem, but if you are doing it the whole time, there's nothing to focus on. And then as far as enjambment, I tend to like a more heavily enjammed line. I'm not much for the really sort of parsed out or end stopped line, but I also am wary of where it becomes sort of gimmicky, where you just feel like the poem is working too hard with the line breaks. And so I like to have a line sort of exist and have its own integrity and then break and go down to the next line. And so I try to read each line individually, even if it doesn't make sense without whatever comes before it or after it, just to kind of make sure that as a unit of sound, it's working and it doesn't sound too chopped up on the page, if that makes sense. I spend the most time in a poem sort of doing resequencing, working on the sentences, and then thinking about what the sort of lines and stanzas, what the shape wants to be. How did I deal with the attention that came when Good Bones went viral? Oh, that's a good question. That was really overwhelming. It still is kind of overwhelming. It was really strange to me because I think it was maybe the first time in my life where I felt like I had an audience for my poems. And those of you who write know what I'm talking about. We do it in a very solitary way. And you publish a poem, and the people who read your poem are other poets. And so it's sort of an interior kind of thing. You do it, and the people you know do it, and you're all congratulating each other and reading each other's books and buying each other's books. But it often feels like it never leaves that sort of insulated circle. And with Good Bones, it was the first time where I felt like strangers were reading the poem and people who usually don't read poems were reading it. And that for me was weird. I felt very exposed. I mean, not like I couldn't go to Target. No one was going to recognize me exposed, but just, it was a weird thing to sit down and think about how many people had written it. And I think I quickly realized I had a choice between letting that sort of psych me out about what I would be doing next, making me feel like, oh God, what am I going to write next? It's not going to be able to top the popularity of that poem. And between looking at it as a total fluke that would not be repeatable no matter what I do, and that's how I chose to look at it. So in that way, it was really freeing, because I'll never write another poem that many people read. And so knowing that that's already happened in this weird way kind of lets me do whatever I want now because it already happened. So that was a one-off. What am I reading now? Let me look at my nightstand since I'm in my bedroom. I'm reading, can you see? A New Language for Falling Out of Love by Megan Privatello, who I just read with her the other night, and she signed that book to me, and I'm really enjoying it. It has such a dry, dark humor to it. I'm also rereading Human Dark with Sugar by Brenda Shaughnessy, which is one of my very favorite books. And as you can tell, it's been on my nightstand for a while because it has either a beer or coffee stain on it. Sorry, Brenda. It just means I really love your book. And the other book that's on my nightstand right now is not poetry. It's called Erasing Death, The Science That Is Rewriting the Boundaries Between Life and Death. I don't know. I read a review of it and I thought it sounded really fascinating. So someone got it from me for Christmas and I'm still working my way through it. It's like, Merry Christmas. Here's a book about what we don't know about dying. Who do I want to see read the most right now? Oh, that's a good question. Who do I want to see read the most? Like, who would I just like freak out to see read? I'm gonna go with Brenda Shaughnessy only because I've never heard her read, and obviously I love her books. So I would really like to hear her read from the new book. That would be crazy. Nicole wants to know if we can talk about what's on my wall. Can you guys see? Okay, let me do like a pan. Okay. What they are is embroidery hoops, like wooden embroidery hoops that have fabric in them, and then I just painted the embroidery hoop gray on the outside and then hung them on my wall. So there's a giant grouping, and I just went fabric shopping, and I found one that you're probably not gonna be able to see it. It's way up at the top. There it is. It has like notebook paper lines, like ruled paper. And the great thing about these is they're super colorful, and it was really cheap to do, and they're super lightweight. So if they fall off the bed and hit you in the head, you're not gonna like brain yourself in the middle of the night. Someone asked how I deal with rejection. That's a good question because it still happens all the time. How do I deal with rejection? I just keep sending out more work. I think what I do is not take it personally. And I think, especially when I was first sending out work, I did take it personally because I was so pleased with a poem. And then I would mail it, and if it would be rejected, I would think like, am I wrong? Is that poem really no good? And I would be second guessing myself. And so I think what's happened more now, and especially now that I read poems and screen work for the Kenyon Review, I have to reject a ton of excellent work. I mean, excellent work because we just fill up so quickly. So it's not necessarily that if you get a rejection from a great magazine that they don't love your poems. It's just there's a lot of times there's just no space. They only have room for so much stuff. And so working on a journal kind of helped me see the caliber of things getting rejected, which helps you kind of just get back on the horse. That's my opinion. Just keep going. Good Bones was rejected a number of times before Waxwing accepted it. And that's not to say that it's like some amazing poem, but it's I feel like it's a good example of what happens in publishing, which is it's subjective. You know, some things people really like and some things they don't. And editors are people with personalities. And so all you can do is do your homework and send out to journals you admire and keep your fingers crossed. Opinions on MFAs, personal experience. I loved my MFA program. I don't have any regrets. I will say I did not pay for it. I went to a program. I went to Ohio State, and it's fully funded for 3 years. So I basically got the sort of luxury of time just to spend 3 years working, and that's where I wrote my first book. So the ability to have 3 years just to focus on that and not have another job and a bunch of real life adult stuff to worry about, and to have a community of writers and mentors who are still mentors to me. Kathy Fagan, who directed my thesis, is still a good friend of mine. We're reading together up in Ann Arbor in a few weeks. And so had I not done that, I wouldn't have met her. And she's had a profound influence on my work and on my career. So I don't have any regrets. I mean, my piece of advice to my students looking into MFAs are, if you can avoid paying for it, because poetry is not a money-making endeavor. I think we all know that at this point. So I think you need to think about it as a sort of 3-year sort of tutelage or apprenticeship or residency, not as a professional degree that's going to get you a job. The academic job market is so bad right now that even if you teach through grad school and publish a book or two or three, it's still really hard to get a decent job. So I think, going into it with realistic expectations and finding a place where you're funded are the two main pieces of advice I would give. Do I regularly revisit classic writers? And how do I feel about scholarly obligation to be familiar with the literary canon to inform your own work? Who are some of my favorite poets? That's a good question. I'm probably going to answer it in a way that is not popular. um, I read 99% contemporary poetry because that's what I like. Um, and I'm also, I'm in a position right now where I'm not teaching, so I'm not creating, syllabi for other poets. So I just get to read for pleasure all the time. And there's so much good poetry being written right now. That's really what I spend most of my time doing. But yes, of course, when I was in graduate school and when I was sort of learning my craft, I read very widely, and I think that's important. I mean, if you're writing love poems, you probably should know Sappho, right? I mean, even if that's not something that you might come across in a literary magazine today, it's something that you should probably dig into. And so I think if there's a particular tradition or mode that you're writing in, you would be doing yourself a favor to go back in time through other writers writing in that mode to kind of see what you can glean from what they're doing. Um, but I actually don't, it's funny, I don't consider scholarly obligations much because I'm not an academic. So, lucky me, I get to sit in bed and write all day if I want to, and in llama print pajama pants. Are there any other questions? Thank you guys so much. This was really fun. Thanks for coming into my house and letting me drink a beer and wear pajamas and read poems with you. Take care, all. Sweet dreams.